Evening, everyone. And I have to tell you that, in my opinion, this year's meeting here is really a miracle. Now, consider that all the other meetings have been canceled, except the one in Jamaica was online. But there was no personal meeting, nowhere, at least in Europe, no personal meeting. And so, well, everybody canceled everything. Most of the speakers could not travel anymore. So who thought that here in US, the meeting will go on? Mostly because where I'm coming from, the news is that, in America, almost everybody is sick, is infected from corona, and they are dying like flies. And it's a terrible situation. Well, when I spoke with Mark and he said, well, will you come? I said, I would, but I'm not sure exactly how the traveling situation is. And so I called a traveling agency and the guy said, no, sir, no, you can't. No, nobody goes there. It's impossible. It's a decree signed by President Trump since March. No European goes there except for some special situation. I said, really? Yeah, okay. So I went to the White House website and I read the decree, and there was nothing about Romania. It was about Schengen area, which is Western Europe. And so I called the agent again and I said, sir, did you read it? Well, I said, no, but I know. Nobody flew to US since March. I said, are you serious? And he said, yes. Well, I said, I suggest you should read it for yourself because it's Schengen area, it's not EU. He said, well, it's the same thing. I said, it's not the same thing. So I made the guy call the embassy, and the embassy confirmed, yes, of course. If the person does not transit Schengen, he's good to go in US. And the guy said, oh man, we didn't sell any ticket to US because of that. So I found a way not to transit, and so by God's grace, I'm here and I'm very happy. 2 weeks ago, Sandy told me that the theme of this meeting is the hope of glory, right? The hope of glory. And of course, when we hear these 4 words, the hope of glory, we kind of instinctively think of a Bible verse. You know which one, right? Is Colossians 1:27, right? Colossians 1:27. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you, the hope of glory. But I ask myself, what does it really mean, this hope of glory, the hope of glory? It's because it's like half a sentence, like left there, floating in mid-air. What does it mean, the hope of glory? Well, obviously, it must be the glory of God. But the hope for what? What to happen? What are we hoping for? And for the glory. But what exactly about this glory? What are we hoping for? And there is a Bible verse, actually it's a prophecy in the Old Testament, and I guess you're all familiar with this Bible verse, which says that the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And I guess this is the hope of each and every child of God, to see this day coming. And I do believe that this is the hope of glory, the hope for that day when the glory of God will indeed cover the entire planet completely. And we have this desire. And I do believe that that day is not very far from us. And although it's not yet here, we can see glimpses of it. Every now and then, here and there, the glory of God manifests itself, and all those which are honest with themselves are rejoicing in it. And I've been thinking that since this is the opening meeting, and probably most of us have been traveling today, and we are tired. I hope that I was thinking that I will share with you a few of these glimpses that I've witnessed in this past year. Because I had the privilege of making a very special missionary journey, which was a very, very big blessing for me. During this journey, I've seen glimpses of God's glory, and I would like to share some with you. Last year, when I left US, I went to Germany, and I attended a meeting there. And when the meeting was over, I was together with a sister. The two of us were the last left in the meeting, and she was telling me about this family in Lithuania, which are alone, and they believe in the truth about God. And I said, well, we should visit them. And she said, are you serious? I said, well, of course, if they would like to start something there, we should go ahead and see what we can do. Well, sure enough, in a month's time, both me and her met in Lithuania, and we spent some time with this family. But it's not about this family. While I was there, the lady of this family told me something that really shocked me, and that is that 2 years ago, she visited Pakistan in a missionary trip. And I said, well, how did you make it there? Because, I mean, I knew that it's a very, very dangerous country for the Christians. And then when she told me that she went by herself, not even with her husband, I was really amazed that she had the courage to do that. But anyways, she put me in touch with a brother who is there in Pakistan, and so I got in touch with him, and he invited me over there for some meetings. Well, I was very happy at this thought, but I didn't know exactly what to think about it because, well, I don't remember exactly the name. There's a Christian organization here in the US who is watching all the countries and is watching the level of persecution for Christian in each and every country. Well, Pakistan is second in that top. So I didn't know what to think. But anyways, to make the story short, the Lord opened the way. I got the necessary papers, the visa and everything. And I went there. I went to Pakistan. Well, Pakistan is really an interesting country. Pakistan is a Muslim country. It's a radical Muslim country. Actually, it has been formed in 1947, I guess, if I'm not wrong. When the British left the area, the Muslims wanted to have their own territory because they always cry for territory. And so they separated themselves from India and they formed this country because they said, we don't want Christians, we don't want Hindus, we want to be ourselves and we want to have our own land, free of any other religious influence. So because of that, out of the 220 million people which are living there, 97% are Muslims. But you have to understand that there are not people which are just going to the mosque once in a year at the Ramadan. No, they are Muslims and they are practicing their religion. They are very serious about it. And I visited this brother is living in the city of Lahore, which is a very big city, 11 million people live there. And by the way, I don't think, well, probably I've seen one or two tall buildings, but other than that, only houses. Just try to imagine 11 million people. It's a huge area, very big. The houses are very small. The streets are so narrow, very, very narrow. And so there in Lahore, there is a Christian neighborhood because the Christians have been persecuted a lot, big time, in Pakistan. And because of that, they just went and formed this neighborhood in Lahore. It is it has about 100,000 inhabitants. It's called Johannabad. And there you have Christian churches. It's the only place in the city where you have Christian churches. In a few years ago, they have been attacked because this kind of happens by these people who are blowing themselves up. They just go in a church or in a big crowd of people and they're blowing themselves up. And it was just across the street where this brother was living. There were two churches, a Catholic church and a Pentecostal church. And two people went inside in each building and they blew themselves up. And so because of that, every Sunday, the neighborhood is surrounded by army and they're checking each and every individual which is going in. And actually in each and every church in Pakistan, they are paying an armed person on Sunday to be there because some Afghan people are coming to slaughter Christians and Pakistani as well. So the experience was very interesting. I couldn't sit down to talk to any Muslim brother because that is strictly forbidden by law. No Christian is allowed to talk to a Muslim and to share his faith. And so the only thing that we could do was to visit in different places of the country, different groups of Christian people in the villages. Well, they are very scattered, very few and very poor. But what really amazed me is that they don't have a biblical knowledge. And for you to understand that, I will just tell you that in a meeting like one of those which you can see there, if I would ask who is familiar with the prodigal son parable, maybe two hands, maybe one, maybe none. And I was confused at first. You've never heard of this parable? No, they don't know. So they are very poor in biblical knowledge, but in the same time, they are very pure in heart. So I had the privilege of going there and meeting all these people and sharing with them the love of God. It was a beautiful experience, really, really beautiful. The children were so interested in finding more and more. And that is because they don't have access to education. They have no access to education. And this is due to two reasons. One is because they are very poor. And second, if you are a Christian, then you really don't get anything in that country. And on their ID, it is written the religion. So wherever you go, everybody knows what religion you have. And so, of course, they confess their faith. They say that they are Christians, but because of that, they have to suffer a lot. So we have been traveling through all these neighborhoods and different villages, different places, and we met all these Christians. They were hungry for literature. They don't have literature. They don't have anything. Maybe one or two Bibles, maybe, but very rare, very, very rare. What they do is they pray, they sing a lot, of course, is their culture. Singing is in their culture, and that's about it. They don't know too much, but that Jesus is the Son of God, and he died on a cross, and if you confess your sins, you are forgiven, and you have to trust God, and that's about it. That's about it. So I was sharing with them, what could I say? What could I have said? I shared with them this parable, the prodigal son. And they were amazed. You know why? Because in their culture, the honor of the family, it means a lot, means everything, the honor of the family. And when they heard that the father welcomed back the prodigal son, they couldn't believe that. Some of the men would stand up and they would say that they would have given a good beating to that son, and they would have sent him away. And how is that possible? And then when I would make the parallel of us and God receiving us as we are and forgiving our sins, they were just connecting the dots. They didn't realize that actually the parable was about God and us. And I could see on their faces that some would feel ashamed, and then they would start to cry, and they would think about it. It's so interesting. Glimpses of God's glory. There are so many people who, well, they believe in Jesus, but they don't know too much. They don't understand. Maybe you don't believe this. In 2020, when you have all this technology and books everywhere, I mean, books, printing is everywhere. There are so many people, thousands and thousands of people, who don't have access to a Bible, and they would love to. In a meeting, I was shocked when a girl about 9 years old, she answered me back in English. I couldn't believe it. So afterwards, I sat down to talk to her, and I asked her, so where did you learn? She could hardly speak, but she said that a few years ago, she managed to attend the school for a few months. And she was so happy, and she got to learn a few words and to speak a little bit of English. I could see that many children were very intelligent. You could see it in their eyes. But they have no hope. They have no future. And it's a tragedy because they're aware of it. Some of them are not aware of it, but many of them are aware of it. And so I kept on encouraging them, and they were coming for prayer. They wanted to pray, to be prayed for. This is the little girl that I was telling you about. They wanted to be prayed for, and we would sit down and talk and answering questions and again praying with them. You want to say something?
Yeah, I think the organization you were trying to remember is Voice of the Martyrs.
No, it's not that one. No, I'll remember and I'll tell you. This is the van that we were driving with. We had a few books. It was a tiny van. As you can see, only 2 people could hardly fit there. And we were able to travel with this. And I want to tell you a little bit about these 2 brothers. These 2 brothers, they are Christian brothers, but they're also related. They are brothers from the same parents. And both of them were born blind. They were born blind. They've never seen anything. And they are doing missionary work since over 20 years. And probably you ask yourself, how can they do missionary work since they're born blind? And I've been visiting them in their home. Well, they live together with the 2 horses that they have, because that's all that they have, 2 horses. And it's just a halfway tall wall which divides the horses from the place where they sleep. They are very, very poor. So since 20 years, they wanted to share the gospel with the rest of the people in their country. And so their father would take a horse or a donkey and a small wagon, and they would sit on the wagon, and the father would drive the donkey, and they would preach to the people, just like that. They would park the donkey in the center of a village, and they would start preaching about Jesus. For years and years they did that. And then in the past few years, now because they have this old button small cell phones, the brothers which are living in the cities, they organize meetings and they call them. And so what they call a rickshaw would come, pick one of them up, they would tell the address, that rickshaw will drive them there, and they will deliver them, and then they will have the meetings, they will preach. And this is what they have been doing for 20 years. Missionary work without seeing anything. I was really amazed. I started to feel ashamed of myself. when I think about these people and the conditions in which they are doing missionary work. I spent some time talking to them, and they told me that this is their life. They can't imagine doing anything else. Since they have learned about the love of God, they said there's nothing more important than to share this love of God with as many Muslim brothers as possible, so that they may find out about the love of God, who God really is, and how much He loves the world, not as they believe Allah is, but as the true Jesus really is, and love everybody regardless. I was watching them, and the passion that they have, the spirit that they have, the way they have been speaking about it, the way they were crying, they are incredible. I hope that you will remember them in your prayers. This is Johannabad, the neighborhood that I was telling you about. When it is surrounded by the army on Sunday, and they are checking each and every one of the persons which are getting in the neighborhood to make sure they don't have explosive or weapons or other stuff. This whole trip was really a revelation. The brother that I met there is an amazing brother. He got converted when he was young, and he learned by himself to play guitar. He had a broken guitar with 2 strings. And he kept on playing on those 2 strings till he managed to learn how to play psalms. And he's traveling the world. He's now a wonderful musician. And he's traveling the country, and he's singing Christian hymns, and the people love those songs, and then they ask him to share something from the good news. And he's preaching to Muslims. It's really incredible. It's really, really incredible. When I left Pakistan, I left with mixed feelings, wondering, why did I get there after all? Because, I spent about, 2 weeks or something. But what's the purpose? And I've been praying and praying, and I understood that God wants to offer these people more. Amen. More of the good news. They need a deeper understanding, and they need encouragement, support, material. And so this brother Sunil managed to translate the first book about the truth about God in their language, in Urdu language. That's how it's called. And so this booklet, I guess you know, the Mystery Demystified. You know this booklet? It's a wonderful booklet about the truth about God. And so he managed to translate it. He will print it the following week, and he's planning to spread this all over the country. So if you remember to pray for these people and for what is happening right now there, for them to be empowered with the power of God, inspired and protected, mostly protected, that would be good. One day, a teenager girl came to me and she said, I would like you to pray for me. And I said, okay. I said, we can pray together, but what do you want? What do you want to ask for the Lord? And she said, I want protection and I want inspiration. I want to be like Joseph. I said, what do you mean? And she said, I'm the only Christian in my school. All the other children and teachers, of course, are Muslims. And the study of Quran is compulsory in Pakistan. And I want to be a light in my school. She said that to me. I couldn't believe it. But she said, sometimes I'm afraid. Of course. And she said, please, if you could pray that the Lord might inspire me, guide me to be a witness for Him and protect me as well. So if you remember to pray for these brothers and sisters, that would be very helpful, very, very helpful. Well, one thing that I really regretted was that I didn't get to talk to a Muslim and to share the good news. I so much wanted that, but it didn't happen. But the desire was still in my heart. And so, when you really want something and it's good and it's according to God's will, it will happen. It will happen. So 2 weeks ago, guess what happened? A Pakistani guy, Muslim, came and visited us up in the mountains. And he spent 2 days and 2 nights in our home. I was shocked when I realized that I couldn't speak to a Pakistani Muslim while there, but the Pakistani Muslim came to my home to sit down with him and to share the good news. And so because he's living since 10 years in Europe, he's a scientist. He's making some researching in a university in Hamburg. And so he came and we spent 2 days and 2 nights together. But he's a Muslim and he's a faithful Muslim. So, of course, we spoke about religion. Now, I'm very happy each and every time when I have the chance to talk to people which believe in God, but they are not Christians. Because you cannot use the Bible in such a discussion, right? They don't believe the Bible. So it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. What do you use then? How can you prove? How can you prove Jesus as the Son of God? How can you prove God as the only true God? How can you prove that God is the true God and not Allah is the true God? So it's a challenge. But I love to be challenged because it puts me to the test and it puts what I believe into the test. And if it's the truth, it will stay. If it's not the truth, it will fall. So I was talking to this Pakistani Christian, and we were talking about the biggest purpose that humanity can achieve or should pursue. And we both agreed that is love. There is nothing which is greater than love. And so, since we both agree on that, I said, well then, what is love? Because in today's world, in this modern world, well, people use love to label all sorts of crazy ideas, concepts, and even doings, right? They say, it's out of love, it's out of love. And so then how can you argue? So what is love? And we have been discussing this. And I said to him, well, I guess you have your own perspective from the Muslim, a Muslim perspective. There is a Christian perspective. And so I said, I would like to challenge you tonight. I said, I want to share with you the Christian perspective on love. And my challenge is this. I said, if you will be able to give me a higher perspective, I don't care if it's real or not. It can be philosophy, it can be something from poetry, literature. I don't care. But give me something which is higher than the Christian perspective of love. And I will quit Christianity right here and right now. I will burn the Bible in your face. And he was kind of shocked because, he noticed that I have very strong feelings when it comes to my faith. And so I said to him, I'm serious. I'm serious. If you can provide something which is greater than the Christian worldview and the Christian perspective about love, I will quit Christianity right away. Well, being an educated person, he's a scientist, right? He was also educated in the Muslim religion. And so, of course, he was telling me that he doesn't eat pork and they pray 5 times a day and, all the Muslim customs and the Muslim standards as what Allah requires for men so that he may welcome them in his paradise and give them, I won't say that. Anyway, so I listened to him and I listened to him, and I said, well, that's good. You don't drink alcohol, you don't smoke, you're not eating pork. That's very good. That's very good. So is that all? Well, he couldn't tell me anything else. And he's an educated person. He's an educated person. Then it was my turn. And when it came to my turn, I instantly remembered a Bible verse. It's the last verse, is 2 Corinthians 9. It says, "Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift." Indescribable gift. And so I said to him, look, the love of God cannot be understood by reading or talking about it. You can understand the love of God only if you will taste it by yourself. All that I can do for you is to try to make a picture, to give you a picture of it, to try to describe it. But actually, as the Bible says, it cannot be described. It's too much to be described. The gift of God is really indescribable. So I said, I will share with you this Christian perspective on love. And then I want you to tell me, what do you think? And if you can come up with a higher picture of love. I'm planning to share with you, not tomorrow, but on Wednesday, I guess. I'm scheduled again. Yes, on Wednesday, my argument for him. Well, of course, since I'm here and I'm talking to you about Jesus, you can figure it out for yourself that he couldn't give me a better picture about love. Otherwise, I would have had to keep my word and quit Christianity. But I want to tell you that glimpses of God's love, can be seen everywhere where his children dare to believe. And even today, there are so many places in this world where is such a thick darkness. I couldn't have imagined that there are Christians who are not aware about the parable of the prodigal son. I couldn't have imagined something like that because they don't have access to Bibles. And there is nobody to sit down to them and to explain. They were born Christians. They would not quit Christianity. They feel strong about it. But that's about it. That's about all. So I do believe that God has a tremendous work to do. And sure enough, we have been entrusted with a huge treasure, with an indescribable gift. And if we will dare to believe, we will not only see, but experience glimpses of his glory, which will turn into the big glory which was promised that will cover all the earth.